Hi everyone! Hi. Look, there's 3 of us today. Woo! So yeah, we've got all kinds of things in store for you. Hope you enjoy this evening's webinar. Just going to share the slides, and we'll show you what we've got in store. Here we go. Okay. Right, yeah, so we've got, this is the second one, treating the back with Shiatsu and TCM. This is the second of 3 webinars. Please say hi in the chat. Hi, Laura, Carol, Kim, Adrian, Catty, Annalisa, Doris. Doris is there.
Oh,
Doris from Vienna.
hello, Doris.
From Vienna.
Oh, a different
Linda,
Doris.
yeah, Linda, yeah. From Norfolk, yes. Loads of people in the chat already. Okay, so here we are. This is what we've got in store for you. Last week, we looked at Western medicine, we looked at some contraindications. We're going to review that today. And we looked at the lower burner, diagnosis and treatment. This week, we're going to do a session on TCM. We're going to get in touch with the middle burner and the diaphragm, which is really important to some of the type of back issues you'll come across in the clinic. And we're going to have a look at tensegrity. We've got video for you about tensegrity. So that's what we've got in store this week. And then we've got 1 week next week. Okay, so let's run a poll straight away and see how confident are you in treating back issues related to the middle burner with Shiatsu, just to give an idea of how confident you are. So let's see, hopefully we can increase that through the evening. We've got a lot of neutrals today. Yeah, but we've got about 40% of the group feel confident or very confident, so that's great. Okay, but let's see if we can help those of you who voted neutral just to get a bit more confident by the end of the session. We've got 8% very unconfident. Okay, so this is the program for today. We've got we're going to review week 1 just in case you were here or you've forgotten what we did last week. Then we're going to have a session on TCM. We've got a video about tensegrity, and then we're going to do a practical exercise tuning into our burners related to the different types of areas of back. And then Dinah and I are going to do some practical work, and Kat is going to be on the second camera with the app to make sure you get a really good view of the techniques. So that's a new feature with this. I've got having 2 cameras.
I'll be as smooth as possible.
Yeah, Kat is going to be as smooth as possible with the second camera. And then we're going to just review some of the meridians, points and resonances that are important for the middle burner related back issues. Okay, so let's have a quick review of last week. I've just taken a few slides out that are really important to just keep an eye on. Oh, I should also mention we've got Malika helping us out in the chat as well.
Yes, brilliant.
Yeah, thank you so much for doing that, Malika. Okay, so this is a review from last week. We're going to have a quick look at Western medicine, an introduction to the advanced diagnostic method, more on that next week. We did some practical treatment methods, and we looked at the lower burner. So let's have a quick skip through this. I think the most important thing for me is to realise that it's very rare to have serious pathologies of low back pain.
Yes.
It is very rare.
I think, I mean, obviously for treating a cancer patient,
Yeah, of course, yeah.
that's significant, but most of those other contraindicated severe pathologies are rare.
Yeah, but we've got to look out for them, that's the thing.
When in doubt, refer
To a medical doctor, yeah. Okay, the advanced diagnosis chart, this is a new chart, and what we're looking at is we're looking at how we get information in from the meridians and from local palpation. And next week, we're going to look at multidimensional information. We're going to do some scanning, maybe some vibrational level scanning. Okay, but this week and last week, what we did was we did local palpation and we did meridian resonances. So that's how we got the information connected the back to the meridians. And what that means is either it's a U point or a diagnostic area locally. So, oh, I've got pain there or a weakness there. Or it's a resonance. So you do that by checking where the obstruction or the pain is, and then checking the resonance on the hara to see whether it resonates with it.
And I thought it's interesting that this week our focus is the middle burner.
Yeah.
Because one of the main meridians that manifests pain in that section is the liver.
Yeah.
And one of the main things that stagnates liver qi
Yeah.
is held emotions.
That's true. Yeah.
So, although obviously we've on your chart, on
Yeah.
your marvelous new chart,
Yes.
is vibrational levels resonant in tissue.
Yes.
Upper right there,
Oh yeah.
which we didn't really talk about last time, but
No.
as it happens, here we are on the middle burner,
Yeah.
with back pain that may well relate to emotional more than physical.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Or
That's right.
spiritual issues.
Actually, absolutely. Yeah. That's it. So next week we'll look at some techniques to actually filter all that out.
Love it.
Okay, and we've got this chart. I actually already given you this chart. This is this chart was a handout last week, and it'll be online to access it. Basically, just goes through each of the meridians that are related to the lower burner and some points there. But like I say, I gave that out last week. It's all probably the most favourite points that you're likely to to see. Okay, so that was the poll. Yes, this is the poll for this week, okay, which is what is your level of understanding of TCM and back problems? So let's find out, before we dive into TCM, let's find out how expert, because if they're all experts, you see, we just skip over it. Just skip over it. Okay, so here we go. What is your level of understanding of TCM and back problems? What do you think? How would you rate yourself? Oh, we got one expert. Hooray! Oh, okay. So look, we've got maybe 2/3 neutral or poor. Yeah, we've got like 40, half are voting neutral and 15% poor or very poor. So let's just see if we can go through some of the basic information, and then we can do some of the theory and see what happens. Okay, so it's a big subject. We're just going to, there's a lot more information on the online course, treating the back course, and the other online courses. So we're just going to go over the basics here. What is suffering? The difference between primary and secondary, which we mentioned last week. So we're going to look at that. And then look at the TCM perspective about pain. And I know you've done a lot of work on this, haven't you, Dan? And you did a whole workshop.
Pain, yes, not specifically back pain, but
pain
in general. And that's where that primary and secondary suffering question
comes
from.
in. Yeah.
But it's all part of the same story, I guess. Yeah.
Etiology, like why does it happen? Back pain in TCM, TCM pathologies and syndromes, a few essential points, and some recommendations that you might give. Okay, so this is, I mentioned this in the email, didn't I? Because this is to do with actually suffering in a wider spiritual context, isn't it?
Yeah, and of course, you know, famously the Buddha went out from the palace where he'd had such a protected life and came across suffering, old age, illness, death.
Yes.
And recognized, you know, the Buddhist, I'm not a Buddhist scholar, but just to put that in context, you know, basically he recognized that human life, we can't go through life without suffering.
No, right. Yeah.
And the cause of suffering, or the origins, were described as basically being misplaced desires or attachment. Attachment to either positive or negative or neutral sensations or thoughts, but attachment.
Yeah.
And the cessation of suffering, like the end of it, is the possibility. So that's the possibility of liberation from suffering.
Right. Okay.
And that liberation comes from not being attached.
Right.
See what I
Yes.
mean?
Yes.
So, and the path to that non-attachment, if you like, is the famous middle way, you know, the eightfold path.
Right. Okay.
Which is all those things like right intention, right living, right speech, right livelihood, all of that. You know, you can, and accepting the Buddha's teaching. So it's kind of an aside in regard to our treating back pain, but at the same time, it's really important when we look at the place of Shiatsu.
Yes.
In, you know, some pain is unavoidable.
Yeah.
But our job is to relieve unnecessary pain.
Yeah.
And to provide support and resources to help manage necessary pain, because some pain is unavoidable. That's being human.
Sure. Yeah. Absolutely. Yes.
Yeah.
And that's links very much with the primary and secondary.
Exactly.
Primary and secondary suffering, isn't it? This is exactly what you're just talking about.
Yeah, exactly. We try and obviously, you've fallen and injured your back, you've got pain.
Yeah.
It will be key stagnation, blood stagnation, whatever, temporary strain, sprain, whatever. Our job as practitioners is to try and relieve that, get the key moving again,
Yeah.
But there will be your person with, cancer metastasized into the bones. They're going to have pain all the time.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
And what we have to do is our best to support, because all medicine really comes from a place of compassion and kindness and looking to ease suffering.
Yes.
And there's our role as Shiatsu practitioners is helping to provide resources to minimize.
Yes. But it's not just that, is it? Secondary suffering is also the fact that you might have an accident or an illness or an injury, which then leads you to not be able to do something.
Absolutely.
Or it may change your life. You have to change your whole life, and that can cause secondary suffering.
Absolutely.
I can't go running anymore. I can't do this. I relied on that, and you get a lot of that, don't you?
Yeah, depression, can't work, can't support the family. Whole negative spiral, can no longer exercise.
Yes.
All of that is part of secondary suffering.
Yeah.
But also, your relationship with yourself and the world.
Yes.
And again, there often, it often moves into levels that beyond the physical.
Yeah.
These are emotional, psychological, spiritual questions
Yes.
that lead to that secondary suffering. It's your relationship with your pain,
not the actual pain itself, isn't it? Yeah. And I think that's the interesting thing about Shiatsu, because it reflects back people's own being in the world at a very deep level, doesn't it? So that's a really important part of it. Okay, so what's the next slide? Oh yes, this is your favourite saying, Diana. You love this one. Do you want to say it first?
As a matter of fact, I did say it in school the other day, and there's a Chinese speaker there, and she said, not bad.
Well, not bad pronunciation. Fantastic.
Butong, zetong, tong ze butong.
Yeah.
Basically, if there's no free flow, there's pain.
Okay.
If there's free flow, there's no pain. So basically, pain is caused by obstruction.
Right, on any level, in
On
fact.
any level.
Yeah.
But that's a really helpful thing to bear in mind with our Shiatsu practice.
Definitely, yeah. Okay, and how can obstruction be caused then?
Yeah, what causes it?
Yes, exactly, yes. Well, I suppose the thing with key stagnation is that can be any level. Emotional, mental or spiritual.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and that's right at the top of the list there.
Yeah, and it's the most common and the can be the mildest.
Yeah.
Needn't be particularly acute. You just sprained your wrist a bit or whatever. It's a bit sore, bit of key stagnation, short bit of time.
Yeah.
You can quickly get it moving.
Yeah.
But it's really common.
Yeah.
But we've got some level of key stagnation.
Absolutely, yeah.
Even if it's not physical and causing physical pain.
No, that's it, yeah. Blood stagnation is a bit of a deeper version of that, isn't it, when it goes more into the physical aspects of the body.
Yeah, and the pain, as we'll look at later, has a different nature. And then the other causes of obstruction are things coming in from the outside, those
Pernicious
influences, the external causes of disease,
Yeah.
Do you know what? If you don't mind me.
No, go on. Yeah.
For years, so it started when I was 19, I damaged my back really badly.
Yeah.
I couldn't walk for months.
Really?
And it was when I was dance training.
Oh, yeah.
And then it got better, like loads of acupuncture and sessions to heal it. It was before I found Shiatsu.
Yeah.
And then it would regularly just go. And I was like, what's going on with my back? And it would happen every few years.
Yes.
And I realised I had an emotional and spiritual attachment with stuff with my dad that wasn't healthy.
Oh.
And when I released myself from that, my back has never played up.
There we are, you see.
Ever again.
No, so it just shows you how important it is, isn't it, those levels.
Yeah.
I've got a story a bit like that too.
Yeah. Okay, so here we are. What can cause all this key stagnation and everything? Well, obviously excessive physical work and overwork, these kind of things, aren't they? Trauma, injury, pregnancy and childbirth can affect the back. And then you've got all the invasions, inadequate exercise.
Yes, and actually this is a more broad thing. This is etiology, the causes of back pain.
Back pain, yeah.
And a lot of them lead to what we'll go on to in a minute, kidney chi deficiency.
Yeah, or
you know, excessive work, overwork, physical work. Actually, of course, kidney chi becomes a bit deficient during pregnancy, naturally.
yes.
And excessive sexual activity, etc. All they can deplete the kidney chi.
Yeah.
Whereas the other ones more associated with stagnation, so trauma and injury and emotional factors and the invasions.
Yeah, that's right. Okay, so here we are. This is just what you were saying, wasn't it? The whole back is influenced by the kidney and bladder channels, so they're often involved. And they're the three big ones that we find in TCM, aren't they? Kidney chi deficiency, stagnation of kidney and blood, often associated with the liver, and invasion of wind, cold and damp, getting into various different parts of the body.
Yeah, and I think the commonest presentation in the clinic, this is my experience anyway, is there's a combination.
Right, yes.
And the most common is an element of kidney chi deficiency, an element of liver chi stagnation.
Sure.
And one or another predominate.
Yeah, sure.
And sometimes you'll also have invasion of, you know, some cold or damp or wind, but just that basic pattern of a bit of, you know, most of us are a bit kidney chi deficient.
Yeah.
You know, unless you're young and strong and lead a totally moderate and balanced life and receive fantastic essence from your parents and stuff like that, you know.
Yeah.
Who's that?
Exactly.
There tends to be quite a lot.
No stress, no overwork.
Yeah.
And especially as people get older.
Yeah.
It's a natural decline. And so that's probably the most common pattern, I would say.
Yeah.
A combination.
And there it is. Look, exactly what you just said, underlying cause of most back pain, lower back in particular. It tends to be chronic, dull, and better for rest. That's the way it's differentiated, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. And then we've got the stagnation of chi and blood, which is the other side of it. That's often related to the liver. It tends to be more severe and more localized, doesn't it? They can move around, and it's a different quality of pain generally.
Yeah.
Moves and comes and goes, but there it is, chi stagnation. If it's more fixed, more blood stagnation. And there we are, look, worse for rest and better for exercise. And that's probably the single most important question to ask, isn't it?
Yeah. Yes, is it better? And, you know, so many people will say, it's really, my back's so stiff in the morning, but once I get going, it's okay.
Yeah.
And that tells you immediately
the
predominant pattern. There will be probably some kidney chi deficiency underneath, but the predominant pattern is the liver chi stagnation.
Yes.
And the same with, you know, I'm all right, and then I go to get up from a chair.
Yeah.
And I've been sitting and I go to get up, you know, and I have to go slowly, and then I can gently ease my way into it.
Yeah. And then you get combinations where it's actually like worse in the morning, it gets better with movement, and then when they get tired in the afternoon, then it gets worse. A different quality of pain will come in, and then you know you've got a mixed pattern. So it's, those simple questions are so important to understand those. Okay, and then we've got all the external pernicious influences. We don't get too much invasion of heat, so we don't, but you will get that in other countries.
Yes.
Unless you're a chef, actually. I had one client who was constantly cooking.
Oh yeah,
and have
there
like
we go.
really red cheeks, red tongue, super stressed out.
Oh yeah, that's true. Yeah, so it could be an occupational thing. Yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, not necessarily in England.
No. And the main differentiation for this is wind moves about, cold tends to be fixed and is better for heat.
Yeah.
And damp is kind of heavy. It tends to be heavy, and you get this sort of numb feeling.
And actually, cold is it can be very strong pain. It can be a real stabby, knifey, strong pain.
Yeah.
And it's worth bearing in mind with your clients because actually it's quite common as a combination, I would say, along with chi deficiency, kidney chi deficiency and liver chi stagnation.
Yes.
I'd say invasion of cold is probably the third most common
one.
often in combination. And if you think about why,
Yeah.
People exercising, getting sweaty, taking their clothes off.
Yeah.
Builder's bottom. I don't know if you know that in other countries. Workmen who wear their trousers low slung and reveal this whole lower back area.
Yeah. Yeah.
Young things with their cut off
Little
top and
crop
bottom
tops,
shirts.
Yeah, that's it.
So basically, in Chinese medicine, it's really important to keep the kidneys, the waist, the lower back, the hara warm.
Yeah.
And we tend to often, girls sit around in their swimming costumes looking gorgeous at the poolside, getting a chill.
Draft. It's very common, actually. It is very common, yeah.
And
so watch out for that.
Yes, and Moxa, of course, is fantastic.
Yeah.
So tucking your vest in isn't a bad thing.
No, it's exactly.
Granny knew what she was talking about.
Exactly, yeah. Okay, so emotional factors are another big factor, aren't they?
Really important.
It's important. And we're going to do more on that actually next week when we look at the upper burner.
Yes.
So, yeah. So obviously we've got the liver, the heart, lungs, all those things often related to emotional factors. And they often affect the thoracic spine, actually, they? They've got the heart, lungs, upper.
Yeah, and in fact, you and I had a recent experience of a combination of liver and heart going on.
That's right, in the
thoracic spine. Yeah, quite interesting.
So more on that next week. And then we've just got a few pretty essential points. I mean, you'll probably have points that you use yourself. Basically, tonifying the kidney deficiency. Lots of points for that. There's some really obvious ones. Stagnation of qi and blood. There's some liver points in there, but there's also some channel points for the bladder. And you can add in any number, like bladder 36. It's another good one. And then there's gallbladder 30, 34, which we'll look at later when we do the practical, which are really good for moving any liver qi stagnation. We'll show you how to use that. And then getting rid of cold and damp. There's a few points there for that. And emotional factors, not surprisingly, all heart and lung points. We're going to share the slides with you. They'll all be online for you to look at if you want to go in more detail. So what about recommendations? What would we recommend for different types of TCM back things? I guess kidney qi deficiency, the most important thing is to build up the qi, isn't it? So it's got to be rest.
Rest.
Yeah.
And, it's that moderation in all things.
Yeah.
Including moderation. You've still got to have fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. Chinese say in the winter, for example, go to bed early, get up late.
Yeah.
Sleep. Rest in the afternoon.
I think the thing I've found I think it's a good idea, personally, I think it's a good idea to give recommendations though, because active rest is something that people are very bad at.
Really bad.
They just sit slumped in the sofa or, whatever.
So what I edited that slide to add in my top recommendation, which is lower abdominal breathing.
Yeah, sure.
And because I studied Alexander technique, I teach them the Alexander technique resting position.
Oh yeah.
And combined with lower abdominal breathing. So when you come in from work, even just 10 minutes, you can lie down with your knees up and breathe in your belly.
Qigong.
Obviously, any kind of
diet to build up the qi again. And Shiatsu, of course.
Shiatsu ideal.
Perfect, because they get to lie down for an hour. Even if they're like hyper busy, like really active people, and they can't sit still for a minute, they have to lie down for an hour.
Yes, and all those lovely tonics for the kidney, like seaweed and chestnuts and walnuts and
that's your special.
And nettles.
Nettles for the blood.
Nettles good for liver.
Yeah.
This might be a good time to just flag up the fact that you're going to do some in the summer school. You're going to do some diet stuff, aren't you?
Yeah.
Yeah, because Kat's the diet person.
Queen of the cuisine.
Made famous by Kat's Kitchen on the Wednesday class.
Yeah.
So
I'll come up with something, I'm sure.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Okay, so let's have a look. What else we've got? And of course, in contrast, qi and blood. If you want to move, you need movement, don't you? Exercise and movement. Yeah.
And actually, I was saying to Cliff earlier, when you've got really strong stagnation, blood stagnation, it is quite difficult to move with Shiatsu alone. And I would really recommend Chinese herbs.
And there we are, got Malika on the chat, so if you want any advice on that, she's right there.
Malika in the chat is your person if you need, and she's doing Zoom consultations, I believe. So
absolutely,
drop her a message in the chat If you think you've got blood stagnation, very strong pain fixed in one place as opposed to moving, changeable pain, more associated with stagnant ki.
Okay, good. And then wind, cold and damp. Obviously, moxa and heat is good for cold. Movement, if it gets stagnated, because it can get stagnated. Shiatsu, we've got lots of really good damp moving points. Again, herbs is good for that. Actually, when you think about diet as well, really.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And you know, you can moxa if there's no sign of heat in the body, and that's really important. Never use moxa if you're not confident that you can recognize heat in the body. But if there are no signs of heat in the body, generalized moxa around bladder 23, you can't go wrong for strengthening.
It's wonderful feeling, actually, especially in the winter.
Great. If you've got cold.
And then, of course, emotional factors with counselling, obviously therapy, movement, meditation, mindfulness, and shiatsu again.
I like shiatsu's in all of them.
Oh yes, I see that. You're not noticing.
I wonder why.
Because it's brilliant for everything, of course. Okay, so look, we're going to just flag this slide up again. And I guess probably what we're looking at here is the fact that this information in the centre here obviously gives us information on all different aspects of that. It links in with TCM, doesn't it? It kind of brings it to life, you know.
And you know, that's one of the joys of having an understanding of the whole Chinese medicine background, because it actually strengthens your resonance with meridian function.
Absolutely,
And therefore, you know, it kind of empowers the depth of connection.
And the points action as well.
And the point actions, completely,
And this is, I've actually already given you this chart. This was on the email that went out for this thing, so you should have downloaded this already. And it's just a very simple chart, just pointing out the just the main things that are really important when you're working the middle burner related meridians. And there's going to be more on that later, because we're going to do a practical exercise in a minute, so to link up the burners, and then we'll go on straight onto the practical work there. So this will all be online for you to use as a reference if you want. Okay, practical demo. But before we do that, I think what I'll do is I'll run the tensegrity video, because we've got tensegrity to cover. It's a big, massive subject. We've got tons online. And I've got my little tensegrity toy, and which is really useful in class. And we've got a 5-minute video for you to watch with Tom Myers, which is inspirational for you. Totally changed. This video completely changed my attitude to the spine. You know, how the spine operates. So hope you enjoy that. I'm just going to run that now.
Sailboat must be one of the best of human inventions, going through the water using nothing but the wind. But we didn't come out here for an ecology lesson. We came out to learn something about the body, and a sailboat can help teach us about how the body stands up. We're used to looking at structures like the lighthouse in the building behind me, where you've got one brick piled on top of another brick, all sitting on solid main granite, so that it's a continuous compression structure all the way down from the top of the lighthouse to the ground. And we think of our skeleton as being the same way, the head piled on top of the thorax, and the chest on top of the pelvis, and the pelvis on top of the legs. But you know, if you disappeared all of the soft tissue, the skeleton would fall to the ground. And a sailboat is a little bit instructed like that. A body is more like a sailboat than a lighthouse. The mast is kind of like a bone, or a series of bones like the spine, and the stays, the shrouds, are really like the myofasciae of the body, offering extra support in a tensional way, not just a compressional way. If you suddenly disappeared all these stays off the sailboat, the mast would fall down under the pressure of the sail. You really need these guys on this side to keep it tight. If we went over and waggled the shrouds on the other side, you'd see that they were very loose, but when we turn the boat the other way, they'll be tight again. Same thing is true of the body. If you look at this structure here, this is kind of taking the sailboat idea to an extreme. These tensegrity structures were invented by Kenneth Snelson, a sculptor, and popularized by Buckminster Fuller, a designer in the 1960s. And It works off a whole new geometry. But if you look here carefully, you'll see that the dowels are supported in a balanced way without even touching each other by the balance of the rubber bands. And the body is very much the same way. If you disappeared all these rubber bands, all the dowels would clatter to the floor. And the same thing is true of the body. If you disappeared all the soft tissue, all the bones would clatter to the floor. We have this kind of illusion because we look at those skeletons in the classroom. They're all wired together, so we think of the skeleton as a solid framework on which the muscles work, but it's not that way at all. The bones float in the soft tissue in the same way that these dowels float inside the rubber bands. Now, when you start to look at these structures, they have a bunch of interesting properties that are very much like the properties bodies have. If I create a shortness in this part of the soft tissue, you can see that the whole structure deforms in a way. Let's see if I can keep it still enough here so that you can see that. See how the whole structure goes? So I could have a shortness over in this part of the body and be complaining of pain over in this part where it's changing. Same thing is true of structural body work. You can have somebody saying, oh, the pain's in my neck. And I start to work over here and they say, no, the pain's up here in my neck. I say, well, that may be where you're hurting, but this is where the problem is. This is where the shortness is. Kind of bone manipulation techniques like chiropractic and osteopathy tend to look at knocking the bones back into place, which can also work to restore balance to the structure of the body. But long-term chronic postural difficulties are often set in the soft tissue in such a way that resetting the bones simply won't last. The soft tissue will again pull the bones out of place. So what we're looking at here in terms of what we want is an even, balanced tone across the myofasciae of the body so that the bones will stay lightly, easily floating in place. The anatomy trains theory is looking at how the myofasciae of the body cover the bones, not just this muscle going from here to here, but in the series of continuous rubber bands that work their way around the human structure, which is a good deal more complicated than this structure, so that we can achieve the kind of balance that leads to ease and harmony and a lack of pain.
Okay, hope you enjoyed that. Let's change the camera angle here. Yeah, so of course, because we work with Shiatsu, we're working exactly with what he said. We're working in a very sophisticated way with the rubber bands in the tensegrity system. And that video and my study of the tensegrity system, which is all in the Treating the Back course in great detail, just totally changed my whole idea of what we're doing in Shiatsu and how the back is not a pile of bricks, it's actually a tensegrity structure. So I hope you enjoyed that. So we're going to do an exercise now. So if you've got a piece of paper, you can join in, or you haven't got a bit of paper, you just remember what you're going to feel. And what we're going to do is we're going to tune into our 3 burners, and we're going to relate those directly to the back. And then I've got a poll for you to find out which burner you would like to be worked on if you're being worked. So let's first of all just shake out a little bit, okay? And what we're going to do is we're going to tune into our lower burner first of all. That's below the navel, down into the pelvic floor, and we're going to tune into that whole area there, and we're going to connect that with the lumbar spine. So first of all, just standing, closing or sitting, closing your eyes, tune into the lower burner. Okay, just get an idea of what your lower burner is like, and then focus in onto the lumbar spine. So you're connecting the lower burner into the sacrum, into your sacrum and into your lower lumbar spine. Okay, and now we're going to just kind of widen that awareness out so that it encompasses the whole of the lumbar spine. So we've got the lower burner and the whole lumbar area. You got it? Okay, just see what that's like. And now we're going to go up to the middle burner. So that's above the navel and below the diaphragm. Okay, so first of all, get in touch with that area, that middle burner. First of all, I'm going to just close my eyes, tune into that area. Okay, right. Okay, now here's the important bit for this week. This is linking the middle burner with the lower thoracic, because if you know your U points, you'll know that the liver, gallbladder, and stomach and spleen U points are all in the lower part of the thoracic. Or if you know the diagnostic area of Masnagi, you know it's in the lower thoracic. And all that lower area is very closely connected with the diaphragm and with the middle burner. So let's just get in touch with the middle burner, see what that's like. And then almost like connect that internally with your awareness to the lower thoracic. Let's get an idea of what that's like. Okay, and now we're going to go up to the upper burner, which is above the diaphragm, and it encompasses the whole of the lungs and the heart. So first of all, tuning into our upper burner. So becoming aware of the lungs and the heart, and then again, focusing in on the resonance between the upper burner and the connection with the mid to upper thoracic spine. So you've got basically around T1 down to around kind of T9, somewhere around there. That's where you're going to get the upper burner connections with the back. Okay, and then we're going to relax. And if you've got a piece of paper, you might want to just draw the 3 burners, how they connect up with each of your with your back and how they work like that. And then I'm going to run a poll and see which of these 3 burners you'd most likely to work. So I'm going to draw mine in. If you ever come to our Wednesday class, you'll know that we do this every week, tune into our burners and check them out. Okay, so let's run that poll and see which of the 3 burners or 3 heaters would you most like to be worked on. Okay, so here we go. Let's see what the most popular one of the 3 is. If you'd like to vote for that. And we'll see whether Dinah was right, because you were saying that the lower burner is the most common, right? So let's just have a look. But actually, look, they're all pretty much neck and neck. Look, a lot of middle burner stuff there. And actually, we're finding that on the Wednesday class as well. You know, that's happening.
It's a mix.
Yeah.
No, I meant to say it's most common for back pain.
For back pain, sure.
But you're asking for the whole burner, so
that's true.
It's a bigger story.
It's a bigger story, yeah. Okay, we have got a few questions, which I think. How did I get this? It's just how we get the shared slides. Daniel asks. They'll all be online on the online course. Okay, so we're going to create an online webinar, series of webinars online. In fact, we already started doing it, so they'll be on there in a few days. So a bit of fun there. When you say meridian pairs, I think you mean like stomach and spleen and liver and gallbladder. I think that's what you're asking. And how can you get this? Do you know, I can't remember where I got this from now. You'll have to see if you can. You have to look online and see.
I think it's a children's toy.
This is a children's toy, yeah. And it's got little bits that go backwards and forwards. I love using it when I'm teaching. So
just have a Google.
Yeah, have a Google online and see if you can find one. Okay, so without further ado, let's do some practical work. Okay, this is coming up to 22, so we'll do like 15 minutes of practical, and we'll just. The reason that we did that exercise was because hopefully you've got that connection, that sensation of connection between the middle burner and the lower thoracic, and that's where a lot of the practical work comes in.
I'm just getting my jumper.
Yeah, okay. So what I'll do is I'll do just some of the most common techniques that I use for treating middle burner, the kind of things you should look out for, and some of my favorite points and techniques. They're all in the notes. A lot of it is basically you're either going to be, most common thing I would say of all things is moving liver chi stagnation and releasing diaphragm and releasing the lower thoracic. The second most common thing will be stomach and spleen deficiency, where you get weakness in the whole spine. Would you like to write that down?
Yes.
Do you want your head there?
Yes, and last week someone Well, there was a comment about people not knowing necessarily the spleen's role in holding up the whole spine.
Yeah.
As a central structure, and
That's
spleen
right.
being in the centre, if you like.
That's right. Yeah, exactly.
But also has that holding up that
Yeah.
helps against prolapses and this and that, but also for the spine.
Yeah.
And spleen 3, do you remember? We used as a great point for that.
That's what I'm going to do.
Actually, reflexology, the spine. So if you put the feet together, the spine comes up the inside of the feet,
Oh, right,
where
so
the
there's a
big toe
connection there.
goes to.
Right, it's a connection.
Hmm.
Okay, so yeah, I would say these are the three, and then finally, the other thing that can happen is the triple heater is connected to the diaphragm. And so sometimes you get obstructions that are related to the triple heater, because the triple heater is connected to the gallbladder, heart protector is connected to the liver through the 6 divisions. So these are the kind of things that, you know, I find the most common things, and like I said, they're all in the notes. So there's 2 basic ways of doing it. One of the ways is just simply to, what we'll do is palpate here around Dinah's. Yeah, so if you just tip over Dinah. So what I'm doing is I'm palpating her lower thoracic spine here. And this is, I find this really quite a common area. After the lower back, and then the more emotional upper back, you've got the whole diaphragm and the lower thoracic here. So what I would do is, if I had obstruction there or weakness or anything,
It does actually feel quite tight.
does it
A bit
feel?
sore,
Yeah. Is I would do what we looked at in the first webinar, which is checking the resonances. So here we go, we've got heart, and there is quite a strong resonance there with the liver. Okay, so that confirms that obstruction that Diana's got there in the lower thoracic is related to the liver. Just check the spleen. That has a strengthening feeling. Can you feel that up the spine?
Yeah, yeah.
And there is some connection with the heart as well, but we'll do that next week. So here's the kind of things that we can do. I like to keep my mother hand here, if I can, just to get a real direct feedback of what's going on. Okay, and what I would do is almost certainly, if it's a liver thing, a rotation to start moving the chi and directing it up to that area. So I'm directing the movement up into this mother hand here underneath. Okay. And then we can use the liver stretch if we want to, work the liver channel. Actually, that feels pretty good.
Yes.
Can you feel that?
Stretch didn't do much, but that does.
That
works.
Yeah. So working the liver. Now working the liver on the lower leg. Just finding subos there.
That's great.
There's a one there
Yeah,
around here,
really
isn't
good.
there? There, yeah. And then, of course, we've got famous liver 3, which we can use. Let's just see if I can get any action from liver 3. Not bad, actually, pretty good. Yeah. Yeah.
Does this.
Does it? Yeah, expanding and moving. And then we've got the gallbladder channel as well, which we can work all the way down, either in a straight leg position, or we can rotate it, and if we're moving obstruction. Obviously, if you've got someone with a lot of deficiency, maybe weakness, you probably want to keep the rotations and so on to the minimum.
Yeah.
Or I do generally like to do the gallbladder channel, like in the straight leg position like this. So I'm just literally working down, and I'm working down towards my favorite point, which is a really good one. Bearing in mind that liver stagnation can occur anywhere down the back and in the hips and everything.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so here we go.
Very common in the hips.
Yeah. In fact, we could do a whole webinar series just on treating the hips, actually, maybe. Yeah. So here we are, I've got gallbladder 34, and true to form, really strong, releasing action in the lower thoracic there. Really, really strong point. Really useful for moving liver chi stagnation.
I can feel it in my neck as well.
Can you? Yeah. Okay, so there's just a few ideas of some things we do all the time. And then the other thing I like doing is also working it directly using the liver channel here. So I actually get right in there, connect internally, into, projecting chi down through this way, down through the liver channel and into lower back, and the lower part of the thoracic there. Okay, and then obviously build that into a whole session, working the liver and gallbladder, the neck, and all that kind of thing. But a lot of the action takes place, I think, with those channels on the legs and the points.
Yes, but that felt very good there.
Did it the local stuff as well?
Yeah. It made me want you to work the arm.
The channel on the arm, yeah. So again, we can do the same thing, holding there, working channel the arm. If you don't know the Masanaga meridians, then you can work the heart protector, because that's the same, it's in the same division, and it's essentially just in the similar location.
Yeah, that's good.
Good?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's, and then of course we'll probably work gallbladder 21 as well, the whole neck and everything. Okay, so the other main thing that you're going to get with that in that area, as you probably know, the spleen diagnostic area is in the lower thoracic. So it's quite common, actually. I've had lots of clients like that, with weakness generally in the spine, earth imbalances, and particularly in the lower thoracic, just in the spleen diagnostic area or around the U points.
Yeah, a soggy feeling.
Yeah, a soggy feeling. And so what you do then is place the mother hand on that area. I did get some connection here. Let's just check this again. Yeah. See, that generally has a tonifying effect. That generally has a slightly strengthening effect there. Yeah. So then you can just do basic technique. Again, if you can't stretch down into here, you can bring your hand up, get the information from the mother hand on the hara if it's easier for you. But I tend to try and get, if I can, I like to get direct information from the local area, because it gives you direct feedback, and also the client can link it.
Exactly. It's like, this is for treating back pain.
Yeah.
And if they can really relate to the fact that their back
is being addressed. Yeah.
Is part of a bigger picture as well.
That's absolutely
true. Which
is
really helpful, because people quite often compartmentalize in the way of Western medical understanding, that separation.
Yeah.
And to find that some place you press down their leg actually changes their symptom.
Yeah.
Can be quite revelatory, I find.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And you're into that tensegrity system as well, aren't you? Because you're
it's all
just
connected.
like in the video, you're working those rubber bands miles away from the from the bits of wood, as it were.
Yeah.
So I'd probably do something like this, using the knuckles here, or the dragon's mouth technique, working the stomach and the spleen together. And I'm just tonifying. You notice it's a slightly different technique here, because I'm tonifying and I'm basically waiting for the chi to build underneath this hand here, which is in the spleen diagnostic area, which is kind of here on the back. Right? So let's just like that. So we've got spleen 10 here, stomach 34. And then we've got the famous stomach 36. Let's just see if this does anything. So we've got stomach 36. Wow, okay, not bad. Yeah.
It's interesting because it also has a sort of comforting, it's an emotional component.
Yeah.
Just by the nature of the meridian somehow. There's something comforting about it.
You know why, don't you? From Dan Keown's book, he describes how the stomach and spleen releases the hormones. So the hormones of satisfaction in the earth element are the same hormones when you've had a nice meal. So press 36 and Dinah feels like she's had a good meal. But that's where it comes from. It's that soothing, that safe, soothing feeling. Yeah, that's what it is.
Nice.
Yeah. That's so interesting that we're starting to learn now why the different emotions of the meridians are related to the organs, because of the hormonal system. And Dan Keown is great on that.
I have a client, when they've been away and they come home, they're really hungry.
Oh.
Really?
Yes, like having been travelling and returned back from a couple of weeks away.
Yeah.
Hungry, hungry, hungry.
There we are, you see.
Something about
Earth,
home and say we're really glad to be home, but so wanting to eat.
Yeah, there we go. How are we doing for time? Have we got time to do her other side? Yes, I have. Yeah. So I'm just going to, I don't know if
I'll
that's
come over your shoulder.
Is that a good angle? Can you see what I'm doing? Yeah, so there we go. I've got my mother
Try
hand
and
there.
keep it steady.
Yeah, well done, Kate, brilliant. Okay, so look, I'm getting right into down its hip here, getting round into towards gallbladder 30. You can't quite get it, but you can kind of get round into there, and then round, down. Just finding seabeds like that one.
Yeah, really good.
So I can feel it releasing.
It's also doing this head neck thing as well.
Oh, is it?
A bit like gallbladder did on the other side.
All right, brilliant. Locations. Sorry. So what, the liver channel?
Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
Mm.
I'm going in with the elbow.
Yeah. It's a good angle to get in.
Yeah.
Like behind the adductor muscle here. Just keep the chi projection there, that's the thing. Just make sure you keep the chi projection when you're going like that.
That was very nice. I didn't even know it was your elbow.
Yeah? Oh, you didn't know, that's good.
I was in the world of benevolence and kindness.
Oh, really? That's one of the actions of the liver.
It's a virtue of the
Virtue of the liver. Okay, so here we go. Yes, not quite as strong as the other side, I don't think, but it's still working a bit there. What do you think?
It's because it's gone up. It's not so physical now.
Oh, that's interesting.
It's more spiritual feeling. That's
Oh.
why I'm sure I'm getting that benevolence.
Oh, right.
Whereas it felt quite physical. That
To start with, yeah.
Gallbladder 34 on that side. With
Yeah.
a strong, tender, relaxing thing going on.
Yeah. So this is the spleen again, as you can probably imagine. Okay, let's just see what happens with spleen 3. I'm going to skip down here and see if I can get to spleen 3. I'm going to tune in again. Let's just see. That's quite good.
It's that comforting thing.
Yeah,
again.
comforting again. Right
And
then.
also affected the mind. It was quite calming.
Right, good. Yeah, I could feel a reaction right here in your back as
Yeah,
well.
yeah. It's that, like I said, it's got that comforting.
Yeah. Okay, so that's the two things we do all the time. You know, liver and gallbladder. Those are the most important points. Of course, you can do all this local stuff as well. Build it into the session. And the other thing, which might be a surprise, is the whole triple heater thing, because we were talking about that today, Diana.
Yeah.
Triple heater 5, probably not the first point you think of for treating the back. A bit like small intestine 3, actually, in
Yes.
the sense that it's a distal point on the arm, and it's used for treating the middle burner and the whole back.
Yep.
Um,
And it's a powerful point for activating the triple heater function of harmonizing the 3 burning spaces
Yeah.
by letting things through, releasing, connecting.
exactly.
And so that's why it's used. It has also a relationship with the
Diaphragm as well.
diaphragm,
Yeah.
which is of course a place that often gets
Because it's one of the horizontal, big
One of
horizontal
structures of the body,
Yeah,
and where
exactly.
liver key often stagnates. So yeah.
Yeah.
So
Because the
triple-
U point's quite low down on the spine. I remember students always going, why is triple heater U point that far
That's
down?
very good. That's very good.
Drawing it
Yeah.
down and bringing source key all around.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. So that's just for mentioning that, because that's when I'm doing a session like this and I've got obstruction here. That is one of the things I'll do. I'll check the triple heater and the gallbladder. I'll use the gallbladder channel. And the gallbladder channel, triple heater channel are very closely connected, obviously, because they're in the same division.
Six divisions.
6 divisions. So going down here, what I'll probably do is check the small intestine, which is a lower burner point in a way, but it governs the whole back. But for the purposes of the middle burner, we put the triple heater in. So what we can do is, this is mainly what I do, is I usually put my hand here, scan down into here, and what I'm looking for is I'm looking for integration between the upper, the middle and lower heaters. And then you can work the triple heater channel, and I'm scanning down and seeing what's happening. Just see what's going on here. There we are, that's more the upper heater.
Actually, that's
And we're getting a bit lower, let's just see. Down. And then bang, we've got triple heater 5, and that has got a strong integrating feeling. I don't know if you've got that.
Yeah, I can feel it now connecting down to about there.
All right. Yeah. And that's a specific use of triple heater 5 is to open up the diaphragm, open up the connection between the burners, particularly the middle burner with the other burners. Just holding that. Okay. Thank you, Diana. Very interesting.
Thank you.
Yes, very interesting. Thank you for the wonderful camera work. I think we definitely need to have some. We definitely need to get some feedback on the chat. Wasn't she brilliant at the camera?
Well, I did go around at one point, and I think they glanced the screen for 1 millisecond.
Yeah, but yeah, you did brilliantly. That's great. Okay, so there we are. We've got 5 minutes left. Let's just see. We've got loads more questions coming in. Let's take this down a bit so we can see. Let's just have a quick look and see what questions we've got. I think some of them we've answered. So
There's a couple more.
here we are. Woodworking the spleen then help with dowager's hump. You need to do lots more though with that.
Yes.
Yeah, because it's mainly obstruction.
Yes,
Upper
and
as well.
it often relates to those, the yang channels
All the yang channels, yeah,
meet at T1.
they do. If you
So-
look at the Masanaga chart, you see them all coming in there. So my main technique is check the resonances like we've done
Yeah.
to see what the major resonances are. There's often quite a lot of emotional stuff there.
Absolutely. That's what I was going to say. And postural stuff, is the life habit of,
But do you know what? I've had some incredible results with
Yes.
it. I've managed to get, with Shiatsu, managed to get the whole upper back straightened out.
Yeah.
It can be fantastic. I've got some actual special techniques that I have developed for that though, which we can put a subject of another webinar, how to work the upper thoracic and the neck.
Yeah.
Because you can do lots of stretches this way.
Yeah.
And then what I've done lately is I've actually stretched the neck this way and then brought it back,
Yeah.
put these fingers like this underneath the joints between the first and second,
Yeah.
upwards, and let them tip the head back,
Yes,
and then
yes.
mobilize the upper
Yeah,
vertebrae.
Yeah.
And that's all comes from this, because I just thought, they're not stacked on top of each other.
No,
I
that's
want to
right.
just mobilize them, So
And they get so clogged up and so.
they really do.
But there's definitely quite a lot of postural and emotional component. So definitely not just spleen.
No. Okay, look, so if we don't know the Masanaga channels, we can work the 6 division pair channels for liver, pericardium, kidney, heart. Yes, you can. When we did the work on this back in the mists of time, we found that about 75% of Masanaga's meridian locations were explained by the 6 divisions. Like, so you've got like liver and heart protector, for example, in the arm very close and stuff, and in the leg. But there are quite a lot of places where it doesn't.
That's right. They don't all match.
They don't all match, and there are reasons for that as well, which we can go into. We can do a whole masterclass on that kind of thing.
This is Karen. Yes, Karen Lisa.
Karen.
The only drawback to that approach, and I mean, it's what I teach my first year students who don't know the meridian extensions. It's what I tell them to do if they've got 2 diagnostic meridians that they only know in the arm.
Yeah.
So then I teach them the 6 divisions so they know something to do in the leg that's relevant.
Oh, right. Yes.
Right at the
I do.
beginning.
Yeah.
But I'd say the only disadvantage that springs to my mind is, and this was something that came up last week, this is, if your conception, if your philosophy, if you like, is that the meridian is a vibrational quality associated with a function.
Yes.
And a function that happens in every cell of the body.
Yeah.
And is shared between the 2 meridians in the pair.
Yeah.
So
So meridian pairs.
You're able to work that throughout the whole body by using the extended meridians.
Yeah.
Whereas if you're swapping between them,
Yeah.
you lose that vibrational quality that's associated with the shared function.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, the Masanaga system is pretty cool, I have to say. For
Yeah.
Shiatsu, it's kind of like it's definitely a progression in the sense you can work the whole body with all the functions.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
but
Something that
hey,
springs to
it's-
mind is like large intestine in the leg. How useful is that? You've got the bowels down there.
Yeah.
I don't know what I'd do with that large intestine in the leg. Just for one example. Okay, so that was a practical demo. I hope you enjoyed that. Let's
Have
just
we got any other questions?
we've only got a minute left, so I don't
Oh my
think
God.
we haven't got any. No. Oh
There's
dear.
a hi
All right.
from somewhere.
Somebody, something the thing. Okay, look, here we go.
I guess it's all mindset. Yes,
Yeah,
absolutely.
yeah, exactly, yeah.
Intention, and in fact, that goes back to your Buddhist thing. Right intention, part of the Eightfold Path.
Yeah. Okay, so we've looked at liver and gallbladder, treating the tendons and muscles. We looked at stomach and spleen, raising the key, and it's related to abdominal muscles. And we looked at triple heated connecting with the diaphragm. So we covered that. Phew.
It's a bit of a race, isn't it?
It was. We did.
Yeah.
I hope it was okay for you. We did get through a lot of material. There's tons of material online in the back course if you want more. So yeah, hopefully you really enjoyed it. We've got lots of people putting hearts on the chat. Thank you very much. So we've done a review of week 1. We've looked at TCM. We've looked at tensegrity. Hooray! We looked at some practical treatment methods and some resonances, meridians, and point in the lower burner. So yeah, we covered everything. We've done the question and answers. Next week, advanced diagnosis, multi-dimensional information. Looking forward to that. And that looking into upper burner related problems. And that's the end of the webinar. I just want to say a big thank you for Dinah for being here, and Kat. Come in, Kat. Yeah. What a great job she's been doing with the camera and everything. And Malika looking after the chat for us because Shakura's away.
Thank you, Malika. Thank you.
And thank you everyone for taking part. Absolutely wonderful. The time has sped past as always. Really enjoy these sessions. And see you next week.
Bye.
I'm going to put a heart in the chat before we go.
On our behalf.
This is a heart for all from all of us.
Everyone.
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah.
Okay, see you next week.